community advocacy speech. I don't know about you, but school gradually got harder as the years went by. Now I know that's how it's supposed to be, but think about it. You start out in kindergarten where you get to take a nap in the middle of the day and your teacher gives you snacks. That's great. But then you keep going, and through elementary school, most of it's self-explanatory and it's not very difficult, but then you hit junior high. Hormones are raging, your bodies are changing, and life is really awkward. So you make it through this awkward phase in life, and you keep going, and you develop good friends, and then you get to high school, and things start to change. There's extra stressors in your life besides just school. Are you going to go to a university, a technical school? Are you going to go into the workforce right after high school? What are you going to do when you graduate? You have to think about, do I need to get a job? Do I need to apply for scholarships? So there's a lot of extra stresses already. Now imagine all of these extra stressors, but on top of that, you have to sit there and think, where's my meal going to come from tonight? Because you haven't eaten in a couple of days and the pain in your stomach's not moving at all. Or, I wonder how I'm going to find new clothes for tomorrow because the kid that sits next to me in algebra has figured out that I've worn the same shirt 3 times this week. Or, where are you going to sleep tonight? You've been staying at a friend's house, but it's been a week and the mom's ready to kick you out. So you're going to have to find someone else for at least another week. These are the things that an unaccompanied minor in Abilene has to deal with every day. Now, to really understand what an unaccompanied minor is and how they go through, we need to know the definition of it. According to the New York State Technical and Educational Assistance Center for Homeless Students, an unaccompanied minor is a minor who's not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian. They could be kicked out of their home, abandoned by their parents, or left on their own, but they're not accompanied by an adult at all. Now you're probably thinking this is mostly big cities, but this happens in little old Abilene as well. Texas did a story entitled, "We Have Homeless Kids Present on Every Campus in Our District." There are 734 recorded homeless students in Abilene. Think about 734 kids. My graduating class had 500. That's a lot of kids, and none of them have homes to go to at night. Heather Melcher is the AISC social worker who works with the homeless youth in Abilene as well, and she has partnered with 176 of them. Out of 734, 176 isn't much. There's a lot of kids being left behind, and one woman shouldn't have to do this job by herself. Now, this isn't a choice for the kids. A problem is a lot of people think that they choose to leave home because they don't want to follow the rules or do what their parents tell them to. But you never choose to leave a good home. You only choose to leave a bad one. A lot of these kids are the star athletes, the valedictorian who makes straight A's, the first chair in the band, or the lead in the school play. They might be sitting right next to you in class and you have no idea because they look just like you, but they're going through a lot more than you know, and they're not receiving all the help that they need. So why is this a problem, and why is it so significant? What harm is it causing to these kids? According to the official Journal of American Academy of Pediatrics, hunger in children and homelessness in children is partnered with behavioral and emotional issues. A kid who's hungry every day and doesn't have a home to go to can start behaving and acting out in school and can also start developing emotional problems. Another problem that they can have is abuse. Abuse that they experience after leaving home. Homeless Hub, a nonprofit organization that works to educate people on homelessness, said that kids who are homeless are 2 to 3 times more likely than another child to experience abuse after they've left their home. This is when they're on the streets or in a shelter, these things are happening. That's physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. They're likely to witness bad violence. And people who witness bad violence are also likely to start becoming violent themselves. They have poor hygiene and they can contract bad illnesses and develop digestive problems as well. Homelessness can create a cycle. If they start as a kid and they're not given the opportunities that they normally would be given, they might become homeless as an adult as well, and it's really hard to get back into the swing of things. Members of the LGBTQ community, or the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning community, are more likely to be abused in a shelter as well. They're also more likely to exchange sex for housing. The sad part is these kids will do anything to just get somewhere to sleep for the night, but they're being judged by those that don't really know what's going on. So why has this problem not been fixed? People have preconceived ideas of what these kids are and how they got in their situations. Like I said earlier, a lot of the problems is that people think that these kids left their home by choice because they don't want to follow the rules, they don't want to do what their parents tell them to, and they'd rather just be on their own and independent. But that's not the case. Like Heather Melcher said, no one leaves a home on their own if they don't have to, or if it's not the only option that they have. They're not lazy, and they're not doing this for attention. According to the National Conference of State Legislature, or the NCSL, 1 in 7 people ages 10 to 18 will run away in their lifetime. 12 to 17-year-olds are more likely to become homeless than adults. Now that's something you wouldn't normally think. 75% of homeless youth are females. So why do they leave their homes? Let's find out the real reasons, because obviously it's not what we think it is normally. 46% of these kids experience physical abuse, and 40% are part of the LGBTQ community. 38% experience emotional abuse, and 17% are forced into sexual acts that they did not want to be a part of. Up to 22% of those 75% of girls that are homeless can be pregnant. If you're already on the street as a homeless youth and you're pregnant, then that also is about to create another homeless youth as well. And that girl needs help. It's not just because she made it what some people think is a mistake before doesn't mean that she should be punished the whole time. We need to give grace and think about what these kids really need. So what are the needs of these kids? They need food, clothing, housing and shelter, education, stability and foundation, and transportation. Now yes, some of these needs have been met. Places in Abilene, like Love and Care Ministries, supplies food and clothing for these kids. But when you're a 17-year-old and you're kind of prideful, it's kind of hard to go into a shelter and say, I need food for tonight. Obviously they do it, but it's also not as easy as it looks. There's a lot of legalities you have to go through to get help. There's also shelters and halfway houses, but the same rule applies. There's a lot of things you have to go through, a lot of paperwork, and sometimes a kid's not really sure how to do that by themselves. Education. The Texas Education Agency passed the McKinney-Vento Act, where no homeless youth is allowed to be denied an education just like any other kid. But the problem is, it's really hard to sit and focus on your algebra test when you have a lot of bigger worries in your life that your teachers aren't necessarily thinking about. So, how do we address these separately? One example is a new organization called the Barefoot Taxi. Southern Hills Church of Christ had a group called the Barefoot Church, and they started a new program called Barefoot Taxi. What Barefoot Taxi is a group of people who volunteered and partner with Heather Melcher to take and get the schedules for these kids' doctor's appointments, dentist visits, get them rides to and from work, and they'll pick the kid up, take him to work, and pick them up afterwards as well. And that's all that they do. They don't supply food, they don't supply water, they don't give them a place to sleep, but they simply start building a relationship. I conducted an interview with Ashley Brown, one of the new drivers for Barefoot Taxi, and this is what she had to say. I had the chance to drive a 16-year-old girl and her 3-month-old baby to the doctor's appointment. I was really nervous. I didn't know what we would talk about, what I should say, or if she was going to have questions for me. I ended up being super surprised because she opened up to me very quickly. What my eyes were opened up to is that no one actually listens to these kids. That sometimes all they need is to have someone listen to them talk and hear what they've been through, but people want to try to help them at first, but sometimes you just need to build relationships. People have let them down a lot in their lives, and they just need someone dependable and trustworthy. Ashley said that she knows that just listening worked because since she drove the girl to the doctor, the girl has texted her twice for a casual conversation. So what is my solution? We need to focus on these needs individually. Homelessness is not something that we're going to be able to conquer all in one sweep. It's got to be broken up into individual things. These kids don't need a mansion, they don't need a 5-star dinner, they just need the basic needs that we mentioned before. So what we need to do as a community is start to build relationships. You need to listen and not judge at first. What you also need to do is stop asking so many questions and just let them talk. Let them tell you what their story is. You don't know what it is, even though you might think you do. You need to focus on one individual problem at a time. Like Barefoot Taxi, all they focused on was transportation, but they've been able to build a relationship with these kids. All these kids need is a little support, and if we focus on each section, one need at a time, we can fix that. Thank you.